Okay, I found this stuck to the footpath. I thought it was one, but it's actually two in one. You'll find out. Could just hear a kookaburra in the distance, folks. Very Australian. I don't know if this phone had picked it up. I don't think it did. It's that far away. But they're an Australian icon, and it's really nice to see that they don't appear to be on their way out extinction wise. Fuck, I hate that. Stupid. This user interface does give me the shits. Trying to work out what colour to utilise. Maybe we'll do brown. Okay, let's see what this item is. It is a pair of children's stickers. You can see there's a rat and there's a splat. I know it rhymes, silly. And basically, yeah, you could say that could represent a rat test, and this could represent COVID. And I tested positive for COVID last Wednesday, and today is Saturday, so hopefully I'm going to be much better by next Tuesday to go back to work after the King's birthday holiday. So I had a slightly extra long weekend courtesy of COVID. So I came down with COVID again, right? This is why I hate travelling on public transport. And even with a mask, you just can't escape the shit. People are so fucking dirty. They travel when they got the sniffles and the coughs and the colds. Although I don't tend to get obvious symptoms of COVID, I tend to go either asymptomatic or very close to asymptomatic. So I only get picked up when I get tested. And for some reason we suddenly got tested at work on Wednesday. And that was it. I was positive. COVID positive. So yeah. That's come up looking quite interesting. Looks a bit hot, a bit blended, and you can't see much of the brown. You can't see it. Looks shithouse. I do think maybe enlarge it on the vertical as well. I'm going to go 400 by 400, and we're going to now switch off the brown. We don't want brown. And I think it's too red. Okay, that's come up looking quite interesting for this rat. I always think of rats when I think of rat test, and that's a bit too blue. I do think we're going to have to maybe enlarge it, maybe less on the horizontal. But yeah, I always think of rats when I think of rat tests. Well, not always. I actually don't. I think of, I don't know. I just become so used to that term rat. That's how we Aussies call I think the English people call it a lateral flow test. We call it RAT, rapid antigen test, is what RAT actually stands for. And we Australians like to use the word rat. It sounds really cool in my opinion. But basically, I know they call it different names overseas, and I think, yeah, England calls theirs a lateral flow test, and that's what we call a rat test. We call it a rat test rather than a lateral flow. Because the liquid flows laterally, sideways, and that's how you get the readings. Just to be simplistic about it. Now I'm going to put it back on here. This is not working very well. I have to change it, maybe add a bit of extra red and maybe extra warmth there. But yeah, the English I think call them lateral flow tests, but we Australians call them RATs. Which, yeah, rapid antigen test, that's what it stands for, RAT. Easy to remember. So, yeah. And that's come up looking quite interesting. Still not quite enough height, but it looks really quite nice. I do think it still looks too blue though. I do think, oh, that's a bit green. I'm going to make it a little less. Don't know if this is going to work, folks. But yeah, rapid antigen test, RAT. Yeah, there was a bit of a controversy about the rapid antigen tests, that they seemed to be concerned that they were not as accurate as what they call a PCR test. I don't know what PCR, it's a complicated meaning, PCR. I can't remember it, of course. I'm not scientific. I've got memory problems. There's no way I'm going to remember what that acronym means. And that's come up looking even nicer. That's come up looking really nice. You can see it's got more warmth to it, and there's more. That's the last one. You can see it's not as well defined as this, and it looks a lot nicer. Looks almost like it's in positive mode, strangely enough. But yeah, RAT tests, RAT or rapid antigen tests, very, very important. But there was a controversy about them not being as accurate, as I said before, as the PCR test, that we were getting those ones that we get when we used to have a PCR test to confirm that you've got COVID if you've been tested with a rat. But basically, it's become the standard way of testing for COVID now, and I think the PCR tests, the lab tests, have now been disbanded pretty much, because we're supposed to be on our way out of this COVID maze, even though people are still getting sick, and including myself, without actually getting sick. Fortunately, I've been vaccinated. That's probably why I didn't get the really, really, really bad symptoms, because I've been vaccinated 5 times. I've actually gone and had my vax done 5 times, which means I am less likely to cop a really nasty sickness. So I really strongly advise anyone who's not been sick with COVID, who's been sick with COVID 6 months, or have had their last booster 6 months. But don't quote me, I'm not an expert, folks, but if you could just make sure that you get your vaccine done, ask your doctor if you're eligible to be vaccinated, and if you can ask your doctor that, doctor can tell you, and if they say yes, go with it. It's worth it, folks. You don't want to get sick, you don't want to get long COVID, Long COVID is such a scourge, apparently. I've heard some nightmare stories. It not only makes you feel sick, it makes you unable, in many cases, to work. And you don't want to get it to that stage where you actually just end up with effectively disabled by it. You don't want that, folks. So I advise you folks to ask your GP about getting your next vaccine, especially you get your 5th one. That's what I've got, and I'm really happy I got it done. I have to catch public transport on a regular basis, so I'm always being exposed to that shit, so I have no choice. And being vaccinated 5 times has given me that peace of mind that even though I get sick with COVID, without getting sick, folks, that if I come down with COVID, it's not going to make me fucking sick. Not to the point where it's going to make me feel sniffly. I had a bit of a sniffle yesterday, which I think might have been a very, very, very mild COVID symptom, but apart from that, that's all I had. No, pretty much. So I really, really advise you folks just to get vaccinated. It really is worth it. It's really worth it, to get it done, to get it out of the way. I do wonder if we're going to go back and make it a negative again. Negative on top of a negative. But I'm trying to get this work out here on the 6 o'clock news, folks. I'm trying to get my stuff out there. I'm trying to get on Channel 9, and yeah, as an artist, as a bona fide artist, because it's very hard to get recognised as an artist. It's funny, we've gone from talking about COVID to my fucking future as an artist. Wasn't that funny how I did that? Try to, I don't know, folks. But yeah, it's really trying my best, folks, to get recognised as an artist, because I'm talented as an artist, and even though I'm disabled. But that's come up looking shithouse, actually. That looks terrible. I don't know if we're going to make that a negative image. That looks terrible. Look at all that black has just made that, ew, yuck, fucking spew. Even that looks like spew. That looks terrible, folks. I don't like it. I don't like the way that's come out. I'm going to go back to where we were. I like the enlargement, looks good. I'm going to reverse it back. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here, folks. But what else are we going to do here? I'm just going to fucking just go back where we were. Yeah, but that's one thing I did when I was COVID. Speaking of my TV campaign, that's one thing I did when I was COVID positive, and I had to stay at home. Was I had a lot of downtime on my TV campaign, so I burned a lot of discs for Channel 9, and I also got a lot of demos done, so I couldn't go to work for this happened twice. I actually, the second time I got laid up for COVID was just before the finish time of self-isolation. So I self-isolated twice, and I used it to make my demos, to burn discs, to do all sorts of shit. So I'm always trying to utilise downtime. So I try to think positive without COVID positive. Yeah, sorry. But basically, I'm trying to work on what I can, and I'm a person that's learning how to use, or has learned a lot about using downtime, using time that would otherwise be wasted, or otherwise I wouldn't have time to do something. And I burned a whole lot of discs and did a lot of downloading and uploading and shit. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure I got stuck in and did a lot of discs that are intended to go to Channel 9. I do believe Channel 9 have got the best coverage. I think coverage is the right term. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on TV speak. I know they get a lot of people sitting down and watching the news at 6 o'clock, which is the primary, is what I'm aiming at. What I use the American term prime time, where everyone just sits down and just goggles at the television, and it's a real useful time to get stuff out there. So I'm trying to make discs of these demos that I put on YouTube and other social media. I use the YouTube channel to download my own videos for TV. So anyway, enough of that. That's come up looking quite an interesting splatty mess. Not the greatest, but not the worst. I think we can now call this demo quits.